coverage on All Elite Wrestling.
We cut a promo like the DMD. They're a very...
Symphony Boys.
The
symphony of five.
Download, you guys, positive energy. You have a great
January recruitment month for this.
Along, I come along in the.
Well, actually, I did see that, and I was thinking.
John Silver, welcome to the show, John. How you doing?
The cold spray. I'm tired of the cold spray.
I went to Bat to do an interview with those guys. You know why? Because they spread positivity about AEW.
Welcome to Dynamite Download.
What's going on, everybody? Long time no see, SPD. How you been?
Happy New Year, baby.
Happy New Year, my friend. 2022 is quickly going to be in the rear view, man.
I know. Cheers to that. It's been a wild year, not only in AEW, but for obviously us right there, number one dad. A lot of changes in both of our lives, and so it's a nice way to cap it off, man.
Absolutely.
It's our award show, our third annual award show, and I was looking back and just kind of once we discuss our awards and once we discuss our categories, I'm going to tell you who we picked last year, and just kind of the landscape has changed so much as you need to evolve as a company and as individuals as we are doing.
That'll be interesting.
It's a lot of fun. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that'll be interesting to go back and see what we thought and have those conversations. AEW has changed a lot over the course of this year. Our lives have changed a lot over the course of this year, but we're still going to be back in it, guys. I think I'll be honest with you, SPD, on a man-to-man level here, like becoming a dad, AEW, the priorities list started to change, and that's because I'm falling out of the key demo. So, Jericho wouldn't care. He wouldn't miss me. But I do think that there's still a need for what we talk about here. And AEW has had a little bit of a bumpy road this year. And I think that, going into 2023, there's a lot of things that we should be looking at, as is the case in all of our lives, right? It's really easy to look at the things that we wish we would have done differently and kick ourselves over the mistakes that we've made. But you have made a lot of progress over the course of this year, and you got to give yourself grace, and you got to reflect on those things and the ways in which you progress and continue to have goals. And I think AEW is going through that, right? I mean, all of us are never in our perfect form. I think that there's a lot. This show is a really exciting show for us to get back on track with, SPD, because it's been a long time since you and I have chatted AEW.
Right.
And, that at least through this forum, right? We're texting AEW all the time. But, it's good to be able to sit down and actually reflect on this last year. We head into the new year with a really strong world champion that I think everybody has wanted to see what MJF can do as a world champion. He's certainly going to get the opportunity to run with it. And it'll be interesting to talk him tonight. I'll be real with you. Before we dive into these awards, there was a part of me that, I found myself almost lazily picking MJF for almost every category. And, I started to really challenge myself to say, hey, yes, MJF is a killer on the microphone, and he's having a heck of a year. He's told some incredible stories, as we'll get into in this show. But I did challenge myself to not just go with this is MJF and his reign of terror, and I think that maybe 2023 is going to be going into next year. It's going to be really a pivotal year for AEW. This is the guy, right? This is the guy.
Yeah.
And they've put their cards on the table. Max has been speaking his worth quite a bit, and this is his opportunity, man. Like, well, let's see.
You talk about it. Even though with his hiatus, he was involved in two of the top feuds in AEW history with Wardlow,
absolutely,
and CM Punk. And so,
great point.
Hate to say it, but give devil his due. I mean, he earned that spot, being carrying that company with those feuds that we were so invested in. But there's so much to talk about. We got 10 categories.
Yeah, absolutely.
The first one, as Team Babyface, we're going to talk about the top babyface. Now, do you remember who you picked last year for the top babyface?
I would say maybe John.
Well, you picked Thunder Rosa.
The Thunder Rosa. That makes
Okay.
sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
Last year I picked Hangman Adam Page, and then the cards have flipped.
How
and you
different.
picked Hangman Adam Page, and I picked the Acclaim. So tell me why you picked Hangman Adam Page, which was kind of a surprise for me coming from you.
Yeah, well, I'll say first, my first response was I thought that the Acclaim, because of how over they are right now. So I'm gonna let you, celebrate, and we'll scissor plenty. But I thought about it, and I think Hangman, to me, throughout this calendar year, really has proven to be the guy as far as the next John Moxley. And I look at John Moxley, obviously, is a guy who I also look at as a top babyface, but to me, Moxley has at times, because of Moxley's attitude, right? Moxley can definitely lean in between good guy and bad guy. Moxley will beat you into a pulp, and has had moments where he's shown a little bit more of an edge, especially with the Blackpool Combat Club. And I think that we might see some heel John Moxley in 2023 as we head into the new year. So to me, when I think pure babyface in AEW, there are a few names that come to mind. Darby Allin's one. But at the very top of that list is Hangman Adam Page. I think that Hangman kind of through thick and thin is the guy who kind of is the everyman that we all could connect to. He's had a heck of a year. And when it comes to in-ring action, I also think about the guy's moveset, the way he tells stories in the ring. One of the most consistent baby faces in all of pro wrestling. The guy knows how to tell that comeback story. The buckshot lariat is clearly one of the most fun, anticipated finishers in all of pro wrestling. I think that Hangman, he doesn't get a lot of credit for some of the some of the big matches that he had this year, SPD. And it's easy to kind of have those get lost in the rear view when we see that the Summer of Punk and the rise of the Acclaim. But I think that Hangman is one of those guys, much like John Moxley, that is Mr. Consistent, and because of that, sometimes gets overlooked. And I wanted to give him some love. I think that Hangman has had a really great year.
That's a great pick.
I think that he's proven to the AEW fan base, and me, I'll tell you, I think you're surprised that I picked him.
I am.
A guy who was at times skeptical about his ability to be a top babyface. Not to say that I don't think that he can do it in the ring, but I questioned, could he hang with the big name guys, given that he's not a big promo guy. I mean, I know Hangman can cut some promos, but both of us would agree he's, he kind of, we all want him to be like the next Austin in some ways. He's not Steve Austin. He's creating he's creating his own legacy. And that's something that I know he got a lot of heat for with the CM Punk stuff. Not taking advice from veterans. But I think, Hangman is a guy who clearly believes in himself and kind of has that fire in his belly. A guy that I think, I'll put it out there and I'll let you jump in after this. Cody is missed a lot in AEW. And I think that there are certain guys on the roster that just are being asked to be the babyface. But Hangman, to me, is the guy that gives you that fire in his belly promo. The guy, remember those passionate promos that Cody would cut?
Oh yeah.
I feel like AEW needs that heart and soul, that guy who will lay it all on the line for the fans, and a guy who everybody can get behind. And I really think that Hangman has proven to be that guy. I think he is going to be a very pivotal guy going forward for this company. And I think that 2022 was a year where he proved to me that they can lean on him. They can lean on him, and I think that he can hang with anybody in this company, and that's really big.
That's a good point. And I mean, I picked him last year. That was one of those things that really catapulted me, was obviously getting behind him and his story and the underdog story and, conquering Kenny Omega. And it was one of those same kind of stories with the Acclaimed, who you knew from a long time, that they would be great baby faces. And this was one of those where
I love seeing them be your pick. Honestly, I love that.
They naturally got over with the fans, and then not only did they get over, they got over more than anyone that I can
Amen.
imagine, anyone
Right.
on the company. And they essentially, the fans hijacked so many matches for them because they were so over. And so, got to give props to these
They
homegrown
had
guys.
arguably the number one babyface moment of the year. When they hijacked that match with the Swerve in Our Glory,
I know.
the fans were begging for it.
I know.
It was, like you said, very natural rise. That's really refreshing.
Natural rise, and it's also an awesome story because they were dark jobbers to tag team champions. I mean, not necessarily
Never jobbers because
but
they have an incredible record.
Yes.
Incredible record.
So
not jobbers, but I know what you mean in the sense that, they were always popular because of their personality.
Yeah.
But I think that this is a year where they put it all together. And again, so much of that hinged on health for these guys, right? But once they got the opportunity, you and I both came to agreement pretty early on that this was a team that was for real, because I knew that this is very similar to how we operate as a team. I love the big personality guys. Like, got Max Caster here. You like a lot of these guys who go in the ring. And Bowens is a guy who right away, very early on this year, even before they had that big run, you would come along. You had kind of seen, yeah, man, these guys are awesome. But Bowen's creativity in the ring, he has really blossomed as an in-ring competitor. I think that he's been fantastic. And credit, I think that they've been thrown into some huge matches, SPD. I love your pick. I'm really, as a fan, I love your pick. They have probably the number one babyface moment of the year. With them winning the tag titles. The fans wanted it so bad. And as you said, one of those moments where you kind of things get hijacked. And I was salty about it, right? Because I loved Swerve in Our Glory. I loved Swerve in Our Glory this year. And I was a little salty about everybody disrespecting Swerve and Keith after that match. In the post, the media conference, the one that it was overshadowed by CM Punk, but theirs had some drama as well. And I just felt like the Acclaimed really connected in a way that made wrestling cool. And that was something that you and I have loved a lot about their rise. It's so fun to go ahead.
Oh, scissoring!
we love Daddy Ass. We love what these guys are doing. And I think that, the cool thing about them, SPD, is even though they're crazy over with the crowd, and it's something that feels like it could have got stale pretty quick, it doesn't feel stale. These guys are super creative. They find new ways to keep things fun and fresh. This feud, I mean, honestly, who'd have thought that they would be having me this pumped up to see a match with Jeff Jarrett in going into year 2023?
I know, right?
Platinum Max, the promo on Dynamite was fantastic. So these guys are really killing it. Showing versatility. I love that pick. So I think both of us can keep our heads high heading into 2023 with those guys as Team Babyface. You have to be feeling pretty good about how Team Babyface performed in 2022.
Now switching to the dark side.
Let's talk about it.
Last year I picked MJF and you picked Kenny Omega. And this is the one and only one that we are both lockstep on. And I think no one has really and let's make a side note. I picked my picks before you sent me yours. So mine are locked in. And Jericho has done some of the.
This is awesome. I feel
like every year he's been in AEW, we say he's having like a career year.
Yeah.
It's a fine wine. He is getting better and better and better. And the stuff that he did with the, turning on the Inner Circle and then forming the Jericho Appreciation Society and some of he is the king of the stable matches that are, I mean, we were there for Blood and Guts and it was quite a spectacle to see. So all this stuff that he's been doing has been spot on. I mean, whenever he never misses a beat, on the mic, and he always has me cracking up, forming the Wizard and the Ocho and everything he does, on paper may sound silly, but he makes it so funny and fun. And I think we're really I'm excited for the next chapter of what's going to happen with Jericho Appreciation Society. You see some turmoil between Danny Garcia and Sammy Guevara. What's going to happen with that, because I hope the BCC and Jericho Appreciation Society is kind of going their separate ways, which it seems like it. But hence he's having a match with Ricky Starks. But Jericho, man, top heel of 2022. And I think this was a pretty easy pick for me, even though I know
because
MJF.
you know that MJF is going to be the guy that everybody says. The internet. This is going to be controversial. That honestly, like, I'm shocked that we were consensus on this.
The only reason MJF, so that little bit of window where the crowd was popping, like, is he going babyface? Is he going that? That was my kind of turning point where Jericho was like, oh man, he was like all in, and just like,
I think that for me, the thing that I like the most about Jericho is how all in he is with all his personalities. And the thing that I've loved this year is honestly like him bringing back the Lionheart version of himself, him tapping into, and really, like, there's a lot of great things that Jericho did this year.
He had some awesome matches.
He really did. And I think that it's really easy to kind of look back on 2022 and be like, okay, it was like the CM Punk MJF stuff was huge. Like trying to go out, like look at the FTR 7-star FTR. You start thinking about some of the and it's easy to like, oh, what did Jericho? Dude, Jericho was just part of consistently awesome, entertaining, hilarious segments. Absolutely, like, incredible matches. Something more violent than you guys like. Honestly, some of his stuff was crazy this year. Jericho, in a year where he could easily just be coasting, this is the reason why he is who he is, dude. Like, he is amazing. He continues to reinvent himself. The amount of different, like, presentations that he's put himself in, the amount of different type of matches that he's put himself through. I am just in awe of how, like, this dude is absolutely the guy in AEW. You've said it, and I want you to, because you love yourself some Jericho.
I do.
You've been, this is a moment for you too, man. I mean, like,
yeah,
I am team heel. This is a clean sweep. Give him the crown, baby.
He's on my Mount Rushmore. I think he is definitely GOAT category for sure, just with the consistency of his career and the longevity. But like, the biggest thing is, I mean, you talk about obviously that turmoil that happened with the CM Punk. Like, Jericho entered that tournament, potentially winning the belt again. Like, all this stuff that he had to do to really keep carrying the company, and it's hard to. I think maybe Moxley, if you take away his his personal time away, there's not many performers in AEW who get as much ring time matches than Jericho. Really,
I know.
And then he's the oldest one on the roster, pretty much.
Know.
I mean, obviously, like Sting aside and things like that, but
they manage Sting's workload. Yeah. If Jericho was like an absolute workalso,
I don't know how he does it.
He's just
it's
an absolute
so
workhorse,
amazing,
man. And the thing that's great about him too, man, is he's also, yes, he's staying relevant by having hot programs with people who are hot. Right now, he's getting involved in a program with Ricky Starks. That's going to be killer, right? But
that's a whole other topic.
In the process,
he's
also like, I really think he's ensuring that certain guys are still getting airtime and getting an opportunity to showcase their talents. Team 2.0 could get lost in the shuffle, and it would be unfortunate because they deserve to be on TV. They're hilarious. They're awesome, right? Like, it would be easy in this bloated roster, let's say. Like, I mean, honestly, like, AEW has a lot of talent and too much to sometimes for Tony to know what to do with, right?
Yeah.
It would be easy for Team 2.0 to get lost in a dark kind of scenario.
Sure.
Thank God they're part of the JAS, right? And I'm sure Daddy Magic would be the first one to say it. It's just great to see.
He would say happening. It makes his nipples hard.
It would make his nipples hard.
Yeah.
I love that. And I think that, like, Jericho is making sure that the guys around him are getting opportunities. He continues to be a baby face behind the scenes, a total leader, an absolute pivotal member of this roster, given all the turmoil it's gone through this year as a company, the challenges that they faced. And again, some incredible milestones as a company, some great achievements as a company, but certainly 2022 is a year that I think even the most positive fans in AEW would say had its challenges for this company. Jericho proved to be a rock solid guy behind the scenes and continues to prove why he is one of the greatest of all time. He can go in the ring. He still can kill it in a program on the mic. There's not a lot that you can say in regards to Jericho. He's a great brand ambassador for outside of the company. The dude is just he is the total package. Absolutely, and it's really cool that you and I that's our only consensus pick. I'm pretty surprised. That's pretty neat, dude. I love that.
My guy, Jericho.
Your guy deserved it, man. He had a hell of a year.
Next category we're talking about is the top female athlete of 2022. Last year, we both were lockstep with the DMD. And
as we should have been this year.
I don't have the first annual award show results, but this is at least back-to-back picks for you for the female one. And this was kind of a late toss-up for me, but my pick was Jamie Hayter. And so I'm leaning over, first I was going to pick Toni Storm because I like
a heck of a year.
He was a workhorse as well in a lot of matches, a lot of great matches. But Jamie Hayter is one of those ones that I could have also picked her as breakout star of the year because, she's had some spotlight here and there, but finally gets the full spotlight and the time to shine. And so Jamie Hayter with the cherry on top ending the year, another one of those where the crowd hijacked it for her, and I think
you're such a mark.
Extra. I am a huge mark. You could just see that extra pep in her step leading up to winning this championship. The confidence level is an all-time high for her, and she deserves it. And so we've always loved her matches. And
preach, dude. I mean, I love seeing her bully people in the ring. Just a bully.
The cherry on top as well was that last match she had with Sheeta. And I think that was just could have been the match of the year for women's easily. And I think that really showed us what kind of champion we're going to get out of her.
Well said. I mean, that's a very great. I mean, Sheeta is somebody who absolutely. It's a shame that she isn't brought up in this conversation just because of she just she hasn't had that kind of opportunity in AEW this year. But anytime she does get a chance to perform, my gosh, I mean, her feud with Deeb was phenomenal this year. Produced some amazing matches.
Agreed. Brutal ones.
Sheeta is one of those people who, like a John Moxley. She's even talked about it. She wants to be the John Moxley of the women's division, and if she's the John Moxley, then Britt Baker is the MJF because there is nobody who can cut a promo like her.
Agree.
She's lethal on the microphone, bro. And she has, truthfully, when you think about all the biggest moments of this year in AEW women's division, Britt Baker is the foundation for all of those big moments. Toni Storm's rise to the top. Toni Storm, I remember going back and I because Toni Storm was also one of my top contenders. I thought she really proved that I think she got a bad shakeout with what happened with Thunder. I think it's not her fault. And it kind of hurt her championship run, and not her fault. But in ring, Toni Storm proved to be one of those women that I want to see. I want to see Toni Storm on television. And one of the reasons why she really proved to me that she was worthy of being a champion before she became one was her ability to stand toe-to-toe with Britt. She never backed down. She had killer promo battles with Britt early on. And then you also think Saraya's arrival is also pivotal and connected to Britt Baker. Jamie Hayter's rise to the top all pivots around Britt Baker. How much did we talk about whether they were going to break up this year? It was a storyline that lasted the entire year. It was awesome. And we were hinted at it at times, but ultimately these two go into 2023 together side by side, as they should be on our graphic, which I love. I wish that these girls would stay together. I really think that
it's going to be interesting what we see moving forward. How much can Britt stay back with gold in front of Jamie? And we can't forget about the steel cage match with Thunder Rosa and Britt Baker.
Well, that's the thing, brother.
Yeah.
I mean, I was just gonna say Thunder Rosa. Controversial year for Thunder. And again, I felt like Thunder Rosa's in-ring action. She is one of those women that I still want to see in this compete. I want to see Thunder go toe-to-toe with Hayter again. I want to see Thunder go toe-to-toe with like the Tony Storm and I want to see these things play out. So I definitely think Thunder has a role in this company. But my point being, like it or not, the AEW women's division would not be what it is without Britt Baker. All of the pivotal, huge moments that have happened throughout this year in so many different women's careers are truly because of her. I feel like this is somebody who kind of doesn't get the credit that she deserves when it comes to her consistency. Britt is a foundational piece for this company, regardless of gender. Somebody that can be absolutely, you can bank on her. And eventually she will become a babyface, which is also going to be fascinating to see that whole thing play out again down the road. I think like you and I have talked about it. I know Charlotte Flair is one of your favorite women in pro wrestling history.
Yep.
Charlotte gets a lot of the same type of heat that Britt gets, being booked in a lot of circumstances. It's because when you are dependable, and Tony knows what he's going to get with Britt.
Mm-hmm.
Why would you not? Truthfully, she is the bar in this company, and I know Jade's got her thing going with the TBS championship. But when you talk about the women's championship, this women's division, I just could not imagine this company in 2022 or going forward without Britt Baker. So
yeah,
she is the most irreplaceable.
For sure.
She is in the top 3 in the entire company of most irreplaceable talents on the roster.
Yeah.
And I don't think it's really debatable, her importance to the overall company. So I felt like I could not imagine 2022 without her. Again, I love Jamie Hayter with Britt. I think that's an awesome pairing. I really think that these two girls going into that could be a repeat for 2023.
Right.
I think they're going to have a really strong year as they go into right now with Jamie on top. As you said, a very fascinating pivot on their normal relationship.
I mean, I would be fine if we had this repeat, but I'm hoping for more depth. I hope we both have different picks for all of these. We're talking about top male performers, and we're going to move that to that. And once again, this is a back-to-back pick from Crayfish from last year to this year. You got the the bastard. And then I have himself, Jon Moxley. And this was another one where Jericho could have been it as well, being the MVP. But as we've discussed in depth multiple times, Moxley is the MVP of AEW. He had to come up big when AEW needed him to come up big. And he did the job for MJF and, all this stuff. Like, he is one of those guys that, like I mentioned earlier, he is in the ring every damn week, and he's in a physical ass-whooping match every damn week, and he almost craves it. And there are very few fighting champions. Even though he's had longer multiple runs, I don't think anyone's defended that belt more than Moxley, in my opinion. The sad thing is with AEW champions, they book them to defend very rarely, which is one of the things that I kind of don't like. Like the women's one, like Thunder Rosa's run was a little short. We had obviously Jamie Hayter just have her first title defense, but we haven't seen her in the ring, and there isn't a match set up anytime soon. Samoa Joe obviously just defeated Wardlow, which is another hot topic as well. Who knows when MJF is going to defend the next time he's going to defend the belt. It's looking like Danielson, maybe they're going to milk that all the way to the next pay-per-view, but that's a long build. So Moxley, man, he put on some banger matches, cut some insane, hair-raising promos, and really, really kept the heartbeat alive in AEW.
And you think back on, why Mr. Reliable it was so important. This was a crazy year for AEW, and when their backs were against the wall, Moxley was the guy.
Yeah.
Moxley was the guy who really I thought carried the torch. And I think that the thing that I love, like you said, love and admire about Moxley is he really seems to thrive. He really seems to love the daily grind, just the grind of wrestling. He loves it. He seems to really live off that. So no,
right.
amazing pick. Hard to top John Moxley, but for me, the Bastard has a really pivotal year in AEW.
Tupac.
That's exactly right. First dual champion in AEW history, something that should be acknowledged. I mean, that is when somebody writes something in the record books, pretty big deal.
Right.
The guy has, when you think about some of the matches that he's been a part of over the course of the year, being able to have the treat of seeing these guys with Death Triangle go against the United Empire.
Oh my gosh!
Now getting this best of 7 tournament match, like series of matches against the Elite. So many matches where the Bastard has. I mean, honestly, Orange Cassidy, that match again with him. Like I know that Orange OC is a very controversial topic here at Dynamite Download because we just don't know how to figure him out.
Right.
But from a talent perspective, Pac is the guy who sets the bar. And again, is a reason why people come around to talents like Orange Cassidy, where you can't argue. Like the guy's just talented. He can go with Pac. He can go with anybody. I just think when I look at what a guy represents to the company, I think Moxley is a great pick because he's like the workhorse. To me, the Bastard he sets the bar for talent, for in-ring work. I just don't think there's a guy who's more complete of a package when it comes to what they bring to the table in the ring. He sells like $1 million. He can go like a blend of Kenny Omega and Ray Phoenix somehow. I mean, he is a special talent.
Agree.
As a fan of his, this was a really cool year for me. I got to
about
see.
Time.
Exactly. I think that we've talked a lot about the Death Triangle and what they could achieve if they just could all stay healthy. I think that the in-ring quality of work that these guys bring, just as I feel like they make the insane look mundane. I just am just in awe every time this guy goes in the ring, and I think that what I want to see more of is some of the stuff that we saw with the House of Black feud, where he was able to showcase his personality a little bit more. I think that this is a guy who, again, I've had debates with our guys on the team here, the staff here at Dynamite Download, about where Pac is. And clearly, I agree. He's not world champion. He's not at John Moxley's level when it comes to that. But when it comes to like a guy who is an ace up your sleeve, there are certain guys who, again, going into some pivotal television for AEW. I think 2023 is going to be a very big year. They're talking about rebranding, new presentation.
Yeah.
I really, really think that there needs to be more emphasis on what they do right and not worrying about so much about trying to get something for everybody.
Yeah.
I think that AEW needs to have an identity. And to me, I think if they lean into the things that we know that they have that are reliable, like we're seeing right now with the Death Triangle and the Elite, Tony can check that off the box and not think much about it and let these performers create a story together. Yeah. TK going into this next year, I think he needs to see what is connecting with the fans. And I think that the in-ring work is something that helps you build a platform for other stars. And so I'm being a proponent right now, is although I think 2022 was the year of the Bastard, I'm asking Tony to use guys like Pac and like John Moxley, who was your guy, to be a solid foundation for a guy that you believe in that can take another jump up. And let me just say here, right? Like Pac paired with Penta and Ray Phoenix, those guys are who they are. They're not a younger guy getting elevated in that scenario. We need to kind of learn from what I'm seeing John Moxley being a part, trying to lead right there is I want Pac to be treated more like Moxley going into this next year, in that not from a winning perspective, but being a guy who can mentor a younger guy. Clearly, Yuta has changed dramatically since being involved with Moxley, and some of those matches that they had this year, SPD, my God.
Bloodbath.
I want to see that in Pac's evolution next year. I think that he's a guy, this last year proved it. Tony sees that he can have, a singles championship and a trios championship at the same time. He can wrestle multiple times in the same evening. We saw that happen. So
not many people could do that.
Exactly. And so I just want to see, connecting with what we just saw earlier like we talked about earlier, Pac and what that Orange Cassidy feud did. Let's get a guy who you think can be a star and put him in a feud with Pac where it allows him to have a solid foundation and test the waters. I think that's going to be the next step for the Bastard going into 2023. That's my hope.
I mean, Scoot beat me to the punch because you're just doing your marking out for Pac, but I feel like he should and could be the first Grand Slam champ. Next go for the TNT title, then go for the world title. If he eventually does the tag, it is what it is. But
that would be awesome.
I think he's one of those that you could do that with. Not many. Like I could see Moxley eventually holding like a TNT championship, but
I could too.
To me, the North American title.
Here's the problem. Here's the problem, SPD.
Yeah.
You're jumping into it right now. There are too many titles, man.
Yeah.
There are too many titles. So, and although it's an honor that, like, for me to see as a fanboy of Pac that he, was that championship necessary? I don't know. Right? Was the All Atlantic Championship necessary? I don't know. I mean, the tournament certainly was kind of cool, but it's just blending in. There's so many championships now that are blending in. What makes the All Atlantic Championship unique? Orange Cassidy with the TNT champ. What's different between those two championships?
Right.
It's difficult to decipher. And now with ROH titles on, I do think that there needs to be some streamlining in that scenario, SPD. I think there needs to be a little bit more mindfulness of that. And maybe that's why a guy like Joe is holding two belts right now, right? Maybe that's why he's holding it's a scenario going forward to monitor. Will ROH be more distinct? Will it be broken off? I think that's a big question mark going into the next year.
Right. For sure. And I think, excuse me, we discussed this before, like one of these belts needs to be like every single week, no matter what. And Orange Cassidy's kind of been doing that every single week on Rampage, But
are they hyping that up? Where's the build for that? You know? Yeah, I agree.
All right, we'll move on to the top.
Oh, that's a great point, though, SPD. You're right.
Next category, top mic work, and this was a great pick by you. Obviously like an easy pick for me, back to back, picking MJF, but you picking Christian Cage, and I couldn't agree more. This guy hit an absolute grand slam on the mic this year with his feud with Jungle Boy, and then recruiting Luchasaurus. But to me, I know you're sour grapes with MJF a little bit right now, but there's still no one better.
He is awesome.
Than him right now.
You're right.
Especially with
choking on donkey dicks.
Yep, drizzling shits is going down the wrong pipe.
Yeah.
I mean, that pipe bomb that he had, essentially quote unquote pipe bomb where they cut his mic off. And, there are very few talents that can get an open mic essentially for 4, 5, 6, 7 minutes and keep me captivated.
You're right.
Jericho is another one of those, but MJF, man, he does not flub a word. He does not skip a beat. And what I liked about him, as we saw the past few weeks and months, was that Ricky Starks promo back and forth. One thing I don't like about Eddie Kingston is he'll cut off your opponents. Like he won't necessarily let you get the jabs in. He's a very passionate guy. But MJF, he can throw them, but I was watching him. I'm like, he was taking that from Ricky Starks, and I was like, I gained a little bit of respect for that because you're selling essentially for your opponent. And that match and that build to me was way better than I expected. I wanted more of it. I wanted a little longer because those two guys I think really could have done something even more special. But that back and forth promo battle, to me, I was just like so geeked out about with Ricky Starks and MJF. And you look about, the promo battles with CM Punk, the promo battles with, with what the stuff he would tear down Wardlow with, the all this stuff coming out, and
John
so
Moxley,
overall,
everybody
man,
that's been in his path.
it's hard to top him on the mic, in my opinion. But Christian Cage maximizing his minutes did some awesome stuff on there as well.
Yeah.
When he turned heel, it was fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, like, MJF. That is an easy pick to me. I mean, I thought about it, and he certainly deserved to be. I mean, the guy is his stuff where he went in on Tony, calling him, the effing mark, like his promo battles with CM Punk, like his William Regal promo. I mean, MJF has multiple like promo of the year candidates, and he puts on some epic performances, and he's a guy who I don't want to be disrespectful to him. He is incredible at what he does. And he's very consistent. He's a very consistent performer. As you said it very, very well. I'll say I'm not as hyped about him right now. I'm finding myself, his championship reign is not even. I mean, I'm glad to hear you love the Ricky Stark stuff. I thought Ricky really stood out really well. But I'm curious to see how this championship reign is going to go with MJF. I'm not going to bet against the man. I'm not stupid.
Right.
But I go back and I think about, to me, that Jungle Boy versus Christian Cage feud was one of the more like intense, fiery, like personal, incredible feuds in AEW.
He dug deep.
And Christian, like, I mean. And here's the thing. You just mentioned MJF and Ricky Starks. That's great. They're both guys who are killers on the mic. Jungle Boy is not real. He himself has said it. He doesn't feel super comfortable cutting a lot of promos. Christian Cage was carrying a big part of the weight when it came to the way that feud played out.
You're right.
When he got hurt, I was begging for Tony to do anything he could to keep Christian around. Just keep him around. The dude was killing every time he had the mic. He was just absolutely eviscerating Jungle Boy. He made you hate Christian. He made you hate him so much. Christian did an incredible job this year. Some of the more like going back, I know MJF has a lot of iconic promos, but I loved what Christian did. I thought that feud was what he stood out as a guy who really showed why he is a Hall of Famer in his own right, man. He killed it this year on the mic.
It's a great pick.
It kept me very interested in the feud with Jungle Boy again, a guy who didn't have a lot of, when you have a promo, when you have an epic battle like MJF and CM Punk, you're shooting shots at each other, right? And you give each other more material. It felt like Christian was creating so much material just because he was willing to go deep and be just evil. I loved it, man. He was so nasty with Jungle Boy in that feud. I thought he killed it. I miss Christian a lot. I really do. I miss Christian a lot, and I hope that he gets better soon and we can see him come out and be a pivotal guy, because he was killing it at that point before he got injured.
We need to see heel Luchasaurus and Christian Cage, more of them. Like, where could you see them? I could see them challenging Orange Cassidy.
The hook, like that whole group that's coming together of those like little younger baby faces or whatever. You could obviously have Christian and Luchasaurus going against Hook and Orange Cassidy.
I kind of want them to do their own thing, but like
Hook
and Jungle Boy are kind of putting together, but
Hook and Jungle Boy, right?
So if I could see Luchasaurus dethroning Orange Cassidy, and it'd just be fun to have just Luchasaurus just be this dominant monster.
Honestly, I would love Christian to come back and win that belt. He is a proud Canadian.
True.
Be really cool. And he could do like the whole Canada superior to US thing, which works great.
Yeah.
And he could kill it.
That's a good point as well.
I would like that. I mean, obviously, like that could even then lead to something with a potentially then babyface Ethan Page. I mean, who knows? There's a lot that could go down the road as a Canadian feud there. But I don't know, man. I think that Christian killed it this year. Obviously, MJF can't complain about that, man. I give you props for MJF. He obviously was. Here's the thing. Like I said at the beginning of the show, you could pick MJF for almost every one of these, and it wouldn't be wrong. I mean, I couldn't argue with you if he was your top heel. I couldn't argue with you if he was your top male athlete. I couldn't argue with you if he was your top mic work. I couldn't argue with you if he was in the best feud of the year.
Top female athlete.
Match of the year. Female athlete even. I mean, hey, you don't know. It is 2023 almost. So
yeah. But the one that we won't see him in is the top tag team, which we're going to discuss next. This was one of the ones, last year, of course, I went with the Lucha Brothers. You went with the Young Bucks.
Yeah.
And obviously those are top two. And honestly, this year was kind of the year of the not traditional tag teams shining per se.
Yeah, that's a great point.
We saw the Young Bucks doing a lot of trio stuff. We saw Lucha Brothers doing a lot of trio stuff.
FTR was out of
FTR
AEW
was doing their own thing in and out of AEW, which we missed them a lot. And so that gave us a chance to see, the Guns, obviously the Acclaimed shine, this new form Swerve in the Glory. And so your pick, Swerve in Your Glory, was
Swerve in Our Glory, get their name
and
right.
I picked Scissor Me, Daddy Ass, the Acclaim. And that's the reason why I picked the Acclaim. And I was going to pick, even though Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks had some matches early on in the year, and I went back to see some of their match lists of some stuff. And Jurassic Express, were the tag team champs as well.
Yep.
But the Acclaimed, same reason why I picked them as breakout star of the year. They earned their spot, and they earned the trust of the crowd. They earned the fans, and so also they proved they're not just a one-hit wonder. Or they're not a one-trick pony per se.
That's a valid
point. So we saw them, have a best of 3 series versus Swerve in the Glory, and we saw them. Obviously, they beat FTR, which was,
it's a big win. That's a big win.
Big win for sure. On paper, they have a win against FTR, whatever it may be.
Valid point.
And so they had some of the most exciting stuff, the feuds with the Guns, the dumpster match, and all the raps and everything in between. So you're
right. They had a great
MVPs
year.
of the tag division, in a tag division that has been talked about as the best in the biz, didn't really shine bright in terms of their overall depth of the division in 2022 per se, in my opinion. But it was one of the highlights of the company, just of how fun it was.
I can agree with that.
If you circle back and whatever they have plans for the tag division moving forward, I mean, we're losing Young Bucks in the tag division because we're getting trios, which is still just as amazing as fun. Mm-hmm. Lucha Brothers have been out of it, FTR out of it. Top Flight is just starting to come back, in that as well. And who are some of your other tag? There's no more Jurassic Express. Best Friends don't really wrestle as tag teams too much anymore.
Yep.
House of Black, which is a lot of fun
Santana
as a trio.
Ortiz.
Yeah, Santana Ortiz are out of there. So what tag teams do you see kind of stepping up to challenge the Acclaimed now that Swerve in the Glory is broken up moving forward? Before you tell me why you love them so much.
Well, I mean, that's a great question. I'll say this. It might not be a team that's even formed yet, right? I mean, my tag team of the year was
true.
I wouldn't have been able to answer this. You know what I mean? Like, this was one of those where, like, Swerve in Our Glory was a team that kind of, like, fell into place. And sometimes those things happen. And as a lifelong wrestling fan, you see, like, 2 singles guys get paired together, and it's like, all right, can they coexist? And we saw this story play out a million times.
Yeah.
And ultimately, that's what ended up happening with these guys. But they proved to have such great chemistry together.
Right.
That even though it was a trope that we've seen before,
Right.
I was captivated. I was on Twitter begging Tony not to break them up. Please don't break them up. I was begging. I was a total mark. I loved their work. And although I do agree that the Acclaimed are insanely over, SPD, it's a great pick by you. They sell crazy merch, which we own. I don't know if I'll ever be able to wear outside the house, but I own the shirt.
I wear that loud and proud.
Yeah, I understand and respect your pick. I love that, but I genuinely I found myself loving the work that Swerve and Lee were creating together, and I loved the story that they were telling in the ring as two guys who were so different, not just in every way, physically, the large, massive presence that Lee gets to bring to the table, and how Swerve is so different from him. And you see it play out in the psychology in which they wrestle in the ring, right? Swerve being so much more strategic and really cutthroat, lethal in the ring, willing to take shortcuts, do anything it takes to win, almost being forced to do that because he's a man who wants great things and he's in a land of giants. His partner is one of them. Swerve really proved to me. I have known Swerve before he got to AEW, and
Sneaky Swerve.
He's taken another huge step in this year. He's a guy who could have been a breakout star contender candidate for me this year, who was in my running for that.
That would be a great pick too.
He took a big leap forward this year. I just really loved what these guys did. One of my, I thought their short run had some really fun interactions when it came to fighting, seeing Keith Lee going toe to toe with a Hobbs, the big fella when they took on Starks and Hobbs in that match. And I just think these guys were a part of a huge rise with the Acclaimed. I think that them existing in 2022 was incredibly short-lived, but incredibly fun. And the ripple effect of that is also going to head into some great television into 2023. Some of the content that I'm most excited about right now as an AEW fan is seeing this diabolical turn of Swerve and how Keith Lee is the counter to that, and those guys interacting to each other. I just think these guys really were incredible overall. I thought that their in-ring work complemented each other really, really well. The big, massive league and the sneaky Swerve, and then their personalities, and they've gotten to show their personalities more in this presentation than in any other presentation in their careers, really, in my opinion. And this is guys who have gotten big run in other companies. I thought this was a really great run for them, really pivotal for them to be seen as big players in AEW, and I think that it's only going to lead to better things going forward. They hit it out of the park. Again, this is a scenario where some athletes could fail. Getting thrown together as a team, just kind of two singles guys, not used to being in a tag together. Their chemistry was off the charts. So really, really enjoyed what I saw out of Swerve in Our Glory. Great tag division, though. Who do you want
to see? Pick three teams off the top of your head that you want to see Acclaim go against. I could say, Top Flight, the Guns again, and maybe down the line once Death Triangle breaks up, Lucha Brothers regain the belts.
Yeah, you don't know. There are a lot of options right now. Because there's not a lot of clarity as to who as you said, some of the ones that we're used to, the old comfort names of the Young Bucks and the Lucha Brothers, FTR, aren't really in the AEW world title hunt right now. So, it's an answer where you kind of want to say could be anybody. Certainly my pick for breakout star of the year for 2023. I think, spoil it. I mean, you're asking the question. I got to say, I have to say, is going to be involved in that. So I think that that's something that the tag division is as interesting as any division in the entire company right now when it comes to believable title contenders. I think they could really put anybody, and they can make it work. They've shown through it all. AEW knows tag team wrestling. AEW really knows tag team wrestling. There have been moments where you might have been disappointed as a fan in 2022, or you might have been confused by some of the booking. Through all of it, I look back on 2022 and I say, like, tandem wrestling, AEW nails it. AEW knows what they're doing with tandem-based wrestling, whether it's the 2-on-2 matches, the 2-on-2-on-2 matches, the 3-on-3 matches, the 5-on-5 matches.
Right.
AEW knows what they're doing when it comes to warfare, tandem-based offense. And I think that I hope that they're utilizing these veterans in their locker room, the Young Bucks, the FTRs. These guys get opportunities to work with these younger kids. I think that as you're getting the opportunities to hand the ball off and see what they can do, the Acclaimed have proven they can run with it. I wonder if AEW is asking themselves what other teams in this division could do the same thing that the Acclaimed just did. Who are some teams that, like, we really, rather than going back to the well and going back to the Lucha Brothers and the Bucks, like you talked about, maybe we gamble on in this tag division. Maybe we take a little gamble on somebody and we see what they can do. This division is certainly strong enough where I feel like it's worth a shot. AEW should see if they can build some stars in this division, man. Why not? You have some very charismatic teams on this roster that can make things happen. So I love the tag division in 2022, man. I'm really excited about where it's going.
Before we go to the next category, breakout star of 2022, as we were discussing that, I think it would be a lot of fun if Jericho +1 and the Acclaimed got in a feud, and Jericho dethrone the Acclaimed eventually down the line for the tag team titles, because I think Jericho and the Acclaimed going back and forth, I think that would really give the Acclaimed a lot of experience and rub.
Did Jericho not get enough praise earlier in their show? Now you got to pitch him to become
don't you think that would be so
now?
fun? Jericho going and getting in a feud with the Acclaimed?
Of course. I would rather see Team 2.0. If you're talking Jericho Appreciation Society, I would rather see Team 2.0 get an opportunity. I think that those guys are hilarious.
Maybe they get the opportunity first, and then Jericho challenges after because his minions can't get it done.
Maybe, yeah.
Him and the sex god Sammy.
I would love to see Jericho and Sammy against the Acclaimed. I think that'd be an awesome match. I mean, can you imagine the in-ring work with Sammy and Bowen going toe-to-toe, and then the mic work between Jericho and Bowen? And
perfect pairing.
Caster? That's great. I agree. That'd be awesome. But I think that, like, Team 2.0, they're a team that could get a chance, man.
Well, that's the one. The mic work battle between 2.0. I mean, we would get
some classics,
Take and Eat It too.
You would
get two feuds within it, you know.
You're right, absolutely. I think the Jericho Appreciation Society going against Daddy Ass and the Acclaimed would be really interesting. That's a great suggestion by you, and maybe they end up going that route at some point next year.
Let's tag them and put it in their ear, a little
I
bird
like
in their ear.
That's a good feud. It would be certainly a way for Jericho to pivot into the next chapter too. You could even have Sammy and Daniel Garcia. You don't know. I mean, there's a lot of different things that could go on. The drama in Jericho Appreciation Society could lead to a lot of title opportunities for them going into the next year for sure. I think that Jericho's killing it, as we talked about. Can we move on from Jericho?
So last year, for our breakout performers, I picked Dante Martin and you picked the Acclaimed. And then last year for our predictions.
Man, was I good.
Yeah, for our predicting, though, we predicted the 2022 breakout performer.
Yeah.
I picked Cody Rhodes.
Yeah.
Which was a bold pick.
Yeah, we were shocked about it at the time, man. We
started it off really hot with that ladder match for Sammy. And then obviously he left for WWE, which he shined in there. So it still was pretty breakout.
He did. I got to say,
and you
Cody
picked Wardlow. You picked Wardlow, which was a back-to-back picks. Now this year, our 2022 breakout picks of the year is our guy, the Ward Dog, Wardlow, and the Acclaimed, which is a consistent name.
They're getting a lot of love on this show.
A lot of love for the Acclaimed. A lot of love for the Acclaimed here in Dynamite Download. This is their third award winning for us. Scissor me, daddy ass.
They are killing it, man. They had a heck of a year, man.
Unfortunately, the way things panned out to end the year for Wardlow was not necessarily how we wanted them to end. But you think about his year, breaking away from MJF, winning the Revolution ladder match, beating MJF with one of the top pops and feuds and most exciting things that we were looking forward to at the pay-per-view of the year. And then obviously winning the TNT title belt. Yes, interview with Dynamite Download. Like it was hit after hit after hit after hit.
Yes.
And so there's tough to top of who had, one of the biggest career years. I would say MJF and Wardlow both had pretty big career years in overall with what they accomplished. And so Wardlow is our guy, man. We don't know what's in store for him. I was thinking about it. It's kind of weird to say this, but I had like a dream that we talked to Wardlow and we were talking to him with his short hair, and he was just like telling us, yeah, they cut my hair, or I'm cutting my hair, and I'm going to be going back to being like someone's muscle for a little while, and then I'm going to take the belt from MJF or something like that. And then I woke up or whatever, it was just some weird part of my dream that I had, but I don't know what's going on. Wardlow told us, he worked through injuries. He's there every single week, week in and week out. He's the workhorse. Yeah. He's there. So that's a deeper topic that I would love to talk to you about.
That's a great point, man. And honestly, he might be hurt. We would be just speculating.
Right.
But I mean, the guy talked, at length with us about how, he was going to have to be just against his own will.
Right.
They were going to have to stop him. Right. And I'm sure that he put a lot of pressure on himself, man. Like, he had the title. They tried to really push him this year. I'm sure that he probably was putting a lot of pressure on himself, that he had to continue working through stuff. It would probably be good for War Dog to have a little bit of break. The only reason why, I was so geeked, Wardlow I picked for 2 years in a row, and I love the War Dog, but I'll be honest with you. I think that he could have been hotter after what happened with. I think Max really, the whole drama with Max.
Keep going 1 second.
For me, the whole drama with MJF and how that played out, stole some of the it put a weird taste. What's up, Finnegan?
Cameo. I had to get him. He was barking. But yeah, the whole drama, weird taste in your mouth, right?
Yeah, Finnegan's going to give you a weird taste in your mouth too, right. A little doggy kiss. No, for me, it started things off on a weird note for him, and I don't know if MJF. I wouldn't be shocked if he didn't do that on purpose, honestly, knowing what a dirtbad he is. But
sabotage someone's rise and joy.
I personally think that Wardlow, his title run was. I was geeked about it so much, and I think that they didn't right away. I wanted to see a battle of the Titans, right? I was pushing for let's see Wardlow get some actual heavy hitters, and they don't all have to be Hobbs, right? He did end up having some great matches with Hobbs, and I was calling for him, come on, Joe, Hobbs, these guys are right there. Have him going against guys honestly, Dustin Rhodes, have him getting matches with guys, Hangman. Put him in matches with guys that are physical, that could push him. Why not have him against Eddie Kingston? Have him against guys who are believable TNT championship contenders, and have the War Dog slaying people. His title reign just didn't feel like he had a mission. It was all right, so now you're the champion. What are your goals? And being transparent, I don't think that he had clear goals for a long period as a champion, and that was the thing that after he was so razor focused on getting his freedom from Max,
which he beat big guys.
And dude, that was the best. When Wardlow had a clear mission, this is the thing. When you have a rabid dog like him, and you unchain him, he's gonna run after the first thing, and he's gonna attack it, and he's gonna get mad, and he's gonna rip it to shreds.
Yep.
But then if you don't chain him up and get him pent up and get him pissed again, and have somebody taunting him again, he's eventually just gonna roam the streets and not be very interested. He's not gonna be able to pounce every single week. You got to give him some other dogs to fight. he got to test yourself as a warrior in order to continue, and that's what he's good at. And so I thought towards the end of his title reign, they course corrected a little bit, but this stuff with Joe, Wardlow's going into the next year, like hopefully he does have a break. And personally, as a heel, I would love to see Wardlow join Team Heel again.
Too early.
No, I would love for him to come back and be the muscle. Have him take a couple weeks, couple months off, and
needs to grow that hair back. That is
maybe have him be. We'll see, brother. I don't know. I would think it would be pretty damn cool if we saw him join the dark side again. I don't know. And again, I know the fans like Wardlow, and the Powerbomb Symphony is over, but the way AEW's roster is constructed, unless you're going to have Wardlow going against a big fella like Hobbs or something like that for every feud he's in, it's very hard for him to be a babyface against somebody like, Darby Allin or like, not Darby Allin, but Adam Cole. Like he would have a hard time, like even MJF. I mean, like when you put him in the ring against smaller guys, it's just natural for us to look at the big guy as a heel. So AEW, we'll see what happens with Wardlow going into next year. But for me, the Acclaimed, the breakout stars of 2022, you waxed poetic about them through the whole show. I don't really need to say anything. You said it for me. I thought that those guys were they had the most organic rise of coolness in wrestling in a long time. I mean, like made us talking like we were teenagers again. They were just
bought their shirts.
Just fun, dude. Just fun guys. They had a hell of a run, and they're established now. That's the thing. These are made men now, dude. Like the Acclaimed they have arrived. They have arrived.
Everybody loves them too, so they weren't kidding. It's one of those like
it was a prophecy. They were trying to tell us.
They slam it down our throats over and over and over again. Everybody loves the Acclaimed. No, we don't. No, we don't. Okay, I guess we do.
we all have come around. They are the most overact on the show. So now, man, hell of a year for those guys. Again, like there are a lot of great candidates. But for me, the Acclaimed, they have arrived. They are the real deal, and they're going to be looked at as key players in this division going forward. I think that they're go-to guys for Tony in 2023.
These next two categories were very tough. You talk about match and feuds, and it's a big year. And I struggled with this one, but as I was kind of like reviewing some of the top matches early on in the year, I was like, damn, yeah, this is it. I remember just going crazy for this. So well, last year's match of the year, I picked the steel cage match at All Out, and you picked DMD versus Thunder Rosa.
Of course,
both great and memorable matches.
That's very true.
Almost easy picks, I think, for both of us. And this one was a little bit harder. I had to dig deep a little bit. And my match of the year was Hangman versus Danielson. And so, I know they had the 60-minute match, which was fantastic before in 2021. And then they ran it back again. And I remember watching this match and I was like, this is just like a thing of work. And, Danielson is on my Mount Rushmore for a reason. And so
just this
I remember just like the chemistry and the violence and the one-on-one. And, I'm a big mark for trios and tag matches, and Lucha Brothers and Young Bucks are always, to me, deliver just like the best matches, period, no matter what. They can do no wrong. But I had to give props to these individual performers for really having back-to-back matches that were fantastic. And so Hangman, Adam Page, Danielson, that one battle, I think it was early January, where they didn't last an hour, but it was where I think they were going to have judges there if they went to the time limit or something like that. I really enjoyed it, and both guys were bloody mess, and it just was a brutal match and great storytelling by both guys.
No, you said it very well. And again, I'm a huge fan of what Hangman did this last year. Like you said, workhorse type of performer. Danielson, when we get to watch him, there are so many times in which I'm reminded, like, this guy is one of the greatest to ever do this. He's just so good. He tells a story so often. And your example there, the battle these guys had earlier in the year. Awesome pick by you. Just a real test of Hangman's spirit. His toughness was put to the test. Great pick by you. I felt like I struggled with this a little bit. But then once I went back and I was like, really, which matches did I feel like I was like, holy, I can't believe what I just saw. And as for much of a mark as I am for for the Bastard, for Death Triangle, for Kenny Omega, for I love all the elite stuff. I'm a mark for all of it. I loved the fight that we saw. It took me back to making me feel like I was watching again, watching ECW, like a total mark on the internet. But it made me feel like dude, the visual of Eddie Kingston just bloody with a gas container.
Yeah.
Just the fights that were going on back. Dude, Daniel Garcia was a freaking he was brutal in this match, man. Daniel Garcia was just choking people, beating the snot out of everybody. He was a pit bull in this match. I loved it.
I had no idea what to expect of this match. And as it was panning out and the music was still playing for a while, which was cool, the whole thing, I'm like, what am I watching?
I know. It was crazy. And it was one of those matches where there was so unique. There was so much going on. But every time they cut, they did, and AEW is going to do a lot of changing with their presentation in 2023. This was one of those matches where I felt like the camera work was so good. It was it felt like we were constantly catching people in huge moments.
Yeah.
They did a great job presenting everybody in a great light in this match where, the violence was off the charts. And I was thinking a lot about the way in which a match holds up over time. And this one is one that will not blend into the surroundings of a match. And no offense to Danielson and Mox, or Danielson and Hangman there.
Sure.
AEW does such a great job at giving us week in, week out phenomenal talent, and matches that are technical masterpieces. That sometimes those kind of matches blend in. The Bastard falls into this. It happens to him all the time.
Yeah.
This match, this Anarchy in the Arena match, does not blend in. That match stands out as a spectacle. And I know it happened months ago now, so it might not be fresh in your memory, guys, but if you can go back and watch that match, it is
so good.
It is as brutal of a fight as you're going to see in pro wrestling today. These guys just beat the crap out of each other, man. It was awesome. I loved it, and I know that it gives you
tearing apart the ring and
but, man,
everything was.
I miss Santana and Ortiz so bad. Those guys were killers. Just a really that match. I highly recommend it. If you guys have some downtime, just looking back on some old wrestling of this year.
That's a great pick.
Oh, love that match.
It would have been, honorable mention, Scoot, that it was a good one. I did thought about that ladder match with Cody Rhodes and Sammy Guevara.
That was a great match, too.
Did some insane stuff.
Oh.
And boy, do I do miss Cody and AEW.
I do, too. It's not the same without him, man. It's really
Blood and Guts was a unique match, especially being there live. I think that added another notch to it. Anytime the United Empire came in, they put on some banger matches.
They did.
And, I was reading online, just getting some kind of inspiration of what are some feelers of other people thinking the top match of the year? And a consistent thing I saw was Will Ospreay versus Orange Cassidy. And that match did deliver, even though I'm a 50-50 guy in OC. I think the gimmick part of him, I don't really love that much, but the in-ring work that he can do is pretty impressive.
It's hard to separate the two.
It is hard to separate the two.
That's the thing. But
I like the gimmick stuff with the hands in the pocket and the but
it's part of the shtick. It's part of the act, man.
My biggest knock on Orange Cassidy is his roll-up wins.
And that's part of it too, man. Like he's gonna have
his roll up wins.
It's got to be
and
part of it.
It's
It's got to be part of his arsenal, though. I mean, Orange Cassidy is, again, if you're gonna have him believably win consistently in a company full of killers, you know, with guys like Powerhouse Hobbs on the roster and Samoa Joe. I mean, dude, he's got to be able to pull off tricks that are believable and that are a big part of his moveset. He has to.
hate roll up finishes, no matter if it's Orange Cassidy, Marco Stunt, or if it's the Guns, or if it's Wardlow winning roll up finish.
Focusing on the positive out of all that. This was a year where you got to see Will Ospreay perform, and that's a guy who I know that you really became a big fan of, being able to see him perform live. Just really a talented dude.
He's the next thing. Do you think he ever comes to AEW full time?
I don't know. I mean, that's a very big question. I think that a lot of these types of guys value their flexibility, their freedom. Maybe he's got a good thing going right now, and maybe when Kenny Omega is ready to retire, maybe that he comes back and is the guy and has
there's some seeds planted next week when they're fighting in Japan.
Yeah, that would be great. I mean, it would certainly be welcomed. I mean, he's a very talented guy, and it would make a lot of sense if after the Elite beat Death Triangle, which unfortunately I think that this is how it's been set up for me as a fan, but after the Elite win, who's going to be their next program? It could be House of Black. I know they're presented very strong, but they have a history with United Empire. I think that would be really incredible if they could bring those guys in. Would be a seamless transition.
Oh my gosh,
that amazing would be matches, right? Amazing matches. So that would be really cool.
Can you imagine a trios triple threat? Death Triangle, United Empire.
Wow, that would be amazing. SPD. I think if
there's not
if
a ring big enough.
If that gets the creative in AEW, I mean, that would be.
Let's go.
If you made that like a ladder match and you put those three teams in, my God, in a trios ladder
double
match,
ring cage match.
Oh my God, that would be that would be truly epic. Those guys would put on just an incredible show. I would want to do anything I could to be there.
Matches. We're going to talk about top feud of 2022. And last year, I picked the Inner Circle versus the Pinnacle, and you picked DMD versus Thunder Rosa.
Yeah.
And really pivotal feuds for that. And this year, I picked the Jericho Appreciation Society and Blackpool Combat Club, and you picked MJF CM Punk. Another stable versus stable for me, and another solo versus solo for you. And reason being for me was the longevity of the programming and the mix and matching that we got. I talked about that last year with Inner Circle Pinnacle. Put it, in the Yahtzee Cup, throw the dice out, and make any two people fight each other. And that was almost similar to the case with these groups. And Jericho is the king of stables and king of stable feuds and all that.
That is
and
true.
So it was some amazing stuff, with Blood and Guts and the Anarchy in the Arena. Essentially, that wasn't BCC, but most of them. And what we saw with the whole Ring of Honor belt changes back and forth and the tag matches and solo matches. So the longevity of that feud really was the backbone of AEW throughout the year and provided some of the best in-ring and promo stuff that we've seen on TV. So
that's a good
point. I love that stable feud, and where the next stable feud or where Jericho Appreciation Society goes.
That's a really good point.
I trust in Jericho. I trust.
No, you are right. Like the BCC and JAS, like that feud was pretty. I mean, it still seems to be going in some ways. I mean, it's still but I mean that feud really did set a foundation for quite a bit of incredible battles back and forth and Blood and Guts. I mean, we got to see it. We got to see live. So I mean, it was one of those matches where you're like, okay, yeah, like these guys. They were again like just violent stuff, man. And AEW did a really great job. Jericho really, I think, to his credit, again, why he was the top heel is just like this guy was committed. He did some violent stuff this year, bro. Jericho really pushed himself to a limit that I was surprised to see. So Awesome that you were able to give Jericho some love throughout the show tonight. This is my time to give MJF his props. I
Finally.
I really tried to get a card where I picked all my picks. I didn't have MJF on at all, and just pull a total heel move on him. But the truth of the matter is, my top 2 feuds of the year had MJF in it. So I had to give him his props. I thought his feud with Wardlow was incredible. I loved how he tortured Wardlow. I loved how they had pictures of Wardlow ringside, and then every week they were getting bigger and bigger.
I see, like talking to you, like I forget about that stuff.
I know. I loved that. It made me laugh so much. I loved that. I thought the way that Sean Spears, his role in that feud and how fun he was. Again, that was my number 2 pick. I mean, I just so MJF had my top 2 feuds this year. I thought he really, I got to give him his just due. He was incredible this year. He really could have, not to be contrarian. I did try to spread the love to AEW this year, just kind of like challenge myself really to think really hard about different moments. Because just looking back on AEW in 2022, it's really easy to say like CM Punk and MJF, this was the moment that everybody talked about.
Yeah.
And if it wasn't for what MJF was able to do throughout the year, it wouldn't have felt the way it did. MJF really was incredible in 2022. Can't give the guy enough credit for how consistent he is. And I'll be honest, like AEW, you and I are both very big team. We're diehards from day one.
Yep.
But somewhere along the way, the company changed, Sean or SPD, and I feel like Punk is very like Punk's role in this company and what happens with him. This is going to be a defining moment for this brand. So I hope that we get to see an MJF versus CM Punk rekindling of that feud down the road, because what these guys were able to do with each other,
it'd be gold.
It was the best. It was, and there's a video out there that has circulated about that feud, kind of like almost like it's a mini movie. One of our guys, Nate Hawk, sent it to us, and it's like a movie. Just to see the way these two absolutely were able to just paint a picture for us of just played our emotions, told an incredible story that you wanted to see more of week after week after week. Phil was able to really, in a way that no one's been able to, kind of get Max rattled a little bit, and Max likes to fake that he's rattled, but always seem like he has a plan. He genuinely, like, it was really cool to see how Punk was shown in that feud and able to kind of be the manipulator of the manipulator, and kind of show MJF he's still got a long way to go.
When he was hugging CM Punk and calling him his hero, and then he choked him out and made him really bloody, hanging from the ropes, and then the double dog collar match. Just all that stuff. The visuals of all that was insane.
I agree. I mean, that was a pivotal.
Was playing the fiddle for us.
Yeah.
And then he just
loved it.
Stabbed us all in the back.
And again, credit to MJF. My top 2 were MJF feuds. So the guy knows how to play the crowd. He knows how to get you engaged as a fan like few can. Yeah. I have to say the guy is incredible, and I can't wait to see what's next for him in 2023. I really am excited to see, and I hope that AEW recognizes how important it is. SPD, they've shot their shot. This is their guy. This was the guy who, like, and again, his title reign, it cannot be a failure, dude. It can't be.
Well, they're setting it up for Danielson to be his next opponent, and if he takes down Danielson, which, knowing AEW title reigns, he's going to continue on for a while. That's the benchmark. If you can beat Danielson in the ring relatively clean, whether it matters or not, like,
no, you're right.
I mean, it doesn't get a bigger opponent than him, really, right now.
When it comes to being
Moxley,
respected,
you beat Danielson, you beat Ricky Starks. On paper, that's
Who's
right there.
next?
That's
You're
better
right.
than most runs.
That's true. That is very true. That is true. He needs to have a few. All I'm saying, and they showed a little bit of it with Starks, but him losing right away, Starks is going to build himself back up. MJF needs to have some. I think this stuff with Danielson's got to start picking up here, and I think that they've been teasing it and slow playing it. I'm ready to see it like really reach its boiling point. I think that's going to be to see if how he goes with Danielson toe to toe.
Yeah,
I'm pumped to see it, man. The guy is a storyteller, dude. He is, and that's one of the things that listening to FTR's podcast. FTR, they do this. There are certain performers, man, that just get it on a different level and know how to tell a story in the ring. MJF, he is that kind of dude, man. He bragged about it. He wrestled 7 times in the course of 2022, and he for a guy, you talk about making it matter. That dude makes it matter. Like he hits it every time he's in the ring, bro. That dude absolutely delivers. So.
Yeah, I mean, he had some great match with Darby. I mean, he's had some really good matches. Like, so I know he's picking his spots to wrestle, but it's fun to watch him in the ring. So I would like to see him more. Before we talk about our last category, our predictions for Breakout Star 2023, I just want to mention, as we're marking out about Jericho, he had a street fight. No, wait, that's Full Gear. So I'm looking at some of his matches that he had. Yeah. So obviously he had the hair versus Ortiz, Anarchy in the Arena. He farted at the Forbidden Door match as well. And then 3 days later he did Blood and Guts. He did the barbed wire match versus Eddie Kingston.
Dude, I know.
Brutal match versus two brutal matches versus Danielson back to back. Bandito, he put Bandito on the map with a fantastic match. And then, he almost got killed by Colt Cabana. And the Tomorrow Ishii match was just absolutely brutal.
God. I forgot about that match. Oh my God.
Ishii is insane.
Can I change my match of the year to that match? Oh my God.
Ishii is insane.
He is, dude.
That guy is one tough guy, man. He's a scary looking dude.
I know he's like a one-trick pony or whatever, dude, but he is so awesome.
Doesn't matter. It's
trick.
Impactful.
He's so damn good at that trick, man. Holy smokes. I want to see more of him. He's so much fun. Love him.
All right. So, actually, I told you my breakout star, but so this isn't a surprise. But my pick for 2023 breakout star is the Book of Hobbs, man. Powerhouse Hobbs is going to have a breakout year in 2023. We already started to see a little glimpse of that near the end of this year, and the vignettes and the promos that we're seeing out of this guy really are elevating him, and I can't wait to see what's in store for 2023 for Powerhouse Hobbs.
Yeah,
I think gold is in the future. I think the sky's the limit with him.
He almost had growth
too, and it's fantastic. Yeah.
No, he almost had, not to interrupt you. I apologize.
Yeah.
But he seemed like he was ripe to take the TNT title off of Wardlow.
Right.
Hobbs is.
Maybe he's not done with Joe. Maybe he dethrones Joe.
That would be sweet if Hobbs was the guy who.
Even though it's heel versus heel, they're not. AEW's not shy about doing that.
No, Hobbs is a believable dude who could take Joe out.
Agree.
I love this pick of Powerhouse Hobbs. I think that he's one of my favorite guys on the roster. I find like his promos are very he's got a good vibe. He knows how to keep he knows how to be cool, engaging. He's a guy who he's a bad guy, but you want to root for this dude. And we talk about checking the boxes. I think Hobbs is a guy who's proven that he checks all those boxes. I don't really have any question marks on Hobbs as a guy who can you lean on him.
Right.
I agree with you on that, SPD. The guy's got the look. He's got a cool name. He has cool gear. The dude just he's got everything.
Yeah.
He's got it. Got the size. He's you have no.
He's getting in great shape.
Yeah, you got no questions about him as an absolute stud. And I think AEW needs to this is a great pick by you because I feel like they could use him to be a stud for them in 2023. They could use him to be a guy who kind of takes the ball and runs with it a little bit. we talked a lot about the Acclaimed in this episode, but I think that there's another team that, had they just won the belts, we'd have been saying the same thing.
You're right.
The Guns were so damn good in 2022. The scissor,
You're right.
the Acclaim's rise wouldn't be possible without them. We interviewed Austin, and he talked about his dream would be have a program with FTR. They've had a program with FTR.
Multiple.
They've had multiple programs with FTR. They've been incredibly entertaining with FTR. They beat FTR. These guys they're part of, to me, this push we saw the Acclaimed as the baby faces that were breakouts. These guys were their equals on the other side.
Yep.
I think next year they should have a run with the tag belts. I think that, again, when it comes to consistency, I'm not blowing smoke. I think that the Guns are as consistent of an act in AEW. They are they're always on their matches. These guys now have gotten into this over-the-top selling that is just hilarious to watch them get a spine buster, or just get punched in the face. They are so good. They've leaned into this over-the-top personality that they have, and to see how they've pivoted from being these Instagram babyface, these guys could have easily fallen. They've fought their asses off to get to where they are.
Maximizing your minutes. I've talked about that time and time again. They've maximized their minutes every single time they're in the ring and on TV, and these guys have gotten over, and they've been one of the most consistent true tag teams on television for a while now. So I think it's only going to get better for them next year in 2023.
Their rise is I think it's going to be similar to the Acclaims, right? They have gotten so over. They've proven over and over and over again that they can hang. I think this is the year where they win the tag titles, and I really think that these guys can run.
All right, I like it.
I'm in. I'm on board. I'm calling my shot,
man.
I'm calling my shot. I want the Guns to be AEW tag champs in 2023. I want to see them get an opportunity. These guys have proven to me, again, as I get older now, man, and you look at things, it's great that AEW, that Tony could hire a bunch of guys. I mean, he's built a dream roster, right? So much talent on this roster. But
it's like a fantasy football team.
But because there's so much talent and there's only so much TV time that you can get, it is so important to have guys like the Guns who have proven every time you give them TV time, they're going to maximize their minutes. Like you said, you can't afford to have flops consistently playing out on your show. You need to have guys. Dynamite needs to be treated like this is your cream of the crop, right?
Right.
That you need to work out. You need to prove to yourself through Dark, through Rampage, who are your cream of the crop guys, and Dynamite needs to feature those guys on a weekly basis. And again, the Guns, to me, have set the tone that I can count a handful of acts on this show that I have as much faith in as these guys. That I need them to get a laugh out of the crowd, if I need them to have a great match, if I need them to cut a great promo, I can send them to do anything, and they're going to do it well. They're not going to complain. They're going to make crappy material into great material.
How many times have they done that?
They're so good at that. It's a talent that I hope that that they are given that big opportunity next year to say, all right, guys, you earned this. Let's see what these guys can do with the belts. And I think that they're the type of kids, it's in their makeup. They're going to run with it.
They just keep cheating to win nonstop.
I'm so excited to see what they're going to do.
It will be cool. They get the belts, and the firm kind of becomes firm as a group. We talked about that earlier today via text, and we haven't seen the firm as a solid group ever since they beat down MJF and Moxley. And so if they can if they can really rejoin and become a solid unit to help them keep the gold and help them kind of start running the division.
And here's like AEW, and I've given them a lot of praise, right, for this. I love tandem-based wrestling. I like friendship wrestling, where it's like, how do we really interact with people in life? We have our little pockets of friends, like, and those are the people we hang with. Even at work, right? Like, you have your group of people that you like to associate with and you hang with. It's changing with the way the world is, but in real life, people tend to pocket into groups. They like to have their little group of friends and hang out and do their thing and have a clique. And so I've always liked where it's like, okay, not all relationships need to be painted as feuds. Not everybody has to hate each other. Let's also have relationships where people are buddies, where they're friends, and they help each other achieve good things. So I think that the firm needs to have some clear goals, or else they're going to fade fast. They came in, they helped MJF get over, and then MJF fired them, and like it was just like it just nerfed them really quickly. The problem that that's the past, because this is a type of group that has potential. I mean, I think if you focus them properly, can be great. There's no reason why the Guns can't legitimately be the AEW Tag Team Champions and have that have the firm helping them be the reason why they stay on top. Almost use like the Adam Cole playbook, right? Like the dirt bags who use their friends to keep them winning. Do that. So have the Guns winning with help with those guys. Clearly, to me, I think Ethan Page has proven he was in top contender for a couple of my categories this year with Breakout Star of the Year.
He's so good.
Mike Work of the Year, Heel of the Year. Ethan Page is one of my favorites in this company. If you get him focused, and maybe you say, all right, like he's dabbled with championship opportunities, like being in the conversation for being a world champion. Let's dial it back. Like let's get this guy like an opportunity to run with the TNT title. Let's get him the opportunity to run with the All Atlantic Championship. Give him a belt.
Sure.
Let him be able to brag about his accomplishment. Ethan Page deserves to have some accomplishments. Let's have him carry the strap. He'd be a great All Atlantic champion. But give this guy an opportunity to really show what he's worth. And then what you're doing with Big Bill and Tiger Style is working. If you present it where Big Bill is the muscle of the group and Lee Johnson is kind of the dirtbag who kind of Sammy Guevara style personality, where like an antagonist, right? Like there's a lot of opportunity with this group. I wouldn't flush the firm down the toilet right away, man. Like I think like
I don't want to. I think
they had a weird start, like where you put MJF through a table and you're red hot, like this is, and then you got nerfed. So I think the talent's there though, where if they focus these guys again, they could quickly be a group that we're talking about for next year. I think that, like it or not, the Guns have gold in their future. It's a matter of, does AEW see them being part of a group? The firm could be a believable pinnacle in some ways, right? Like, I mean, you see the writing is on the wall with some of like the, you could have the Guns be the equivalent of FTR. You could have Big Bill be the equivalent of a Wardlow. I mean, dude, I don't know about you, but I think like Morrissey, that dude's choke slam, his presence,
it's high.
He's a freak, bro. Like, I mean, like,
I want to see him
give the guy his credit.
Matches.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. I think that but I like what they're doing with Lee Moriarty and Big Bill, because like he works best when he's paired with somebody. I compared him like with Lee Moriarty to Sammy Guevara. Dude, he's kind of like playing like the Enzo Amore. He's just not got the personality on the mic for it. So
goofy, cocky, but actually much better in the ring than Enzo. But
I thought Enzo. I mean, hey, I think Enzo is underrated in the ring. Personally, I thought Enzo was great. Good. He had a good title run.
I love Enzo, and
he had a good run. No, I think Enzo. Like, I think Enzo gets a bad rap in the big picture. I think
I'm a fan of his.
Good. So, but needless to say, I think that the firm does have potential.
Right.
And again, like huge fan of Ethan Page. Think that the Guns. I think the Guns are an act that have proven like, all right, like we can run with these guys, and with how important that is for a company like AEW that is still trying to consistently build this brand, you got to have guys who you can lean on and count on week in and week out to do the damn thing and put on a show. And the Guns are as entertaining as an act in pro wrestling. Those guys always have me laughing. They're always engaging. They have it. They have the it factor.
Agree.
And it extends to what they do in the ring. They know how to make their opponents look like $1 million. They know how to get the fans engaged in their matches. The ass boy chants are loud. I think that these guys are the real deal, and I can't wait to see what happens for them next year, dude. I think they're
man,
gonna.
you got me pumped up, man. Now I want to get Colton on the show now. Got to get the trifecta. Get Colton on the show when they capture some gold.
I would love to have Colton on the show, and we know Colton's a fan of ours, man. I mean, I think that those guys recognize that we've been
supporters from early on.
Yeah, and this is the thing. Like, this is the end of the year show, and we did take a break for a while, and I'm going to be transparent about it. Like, it was, I'm a new dad, and the product was I was having a hard time at points, like being super caught into it. And there are certain acts, and I think this week's show is a reminder, there are certain acts on this roster that I tune in for. I still watch, I will still watch
joy
that I enjoy. I want to see them thrive. I want to see what they have to offer. And I will always be a wrestling fan. Like, I mean, it's been in my blood since I was a kid. So it is really cool to see new acts like the Guns, where it takes me like, dude, we loved his dad, and like, it's kind of like wild to see like these guys are going to paving their own path, and they're creating their own legend. Just the memories that these guys are creating, they're fantastic. And so, I really am excited for what's in store for some of these. And again, being able to have this year where we got to talk to Wardlow, it was a dream come true for me. We got to talk. We've got to talk to Colton. A guy who I'm a huge, like, in case you couldn't tell, I was a really big advocate for those guys this year. So, just the opportunities to reach those guys. I think in today's day and age, like of AEW, I realized that I was falling into that trap. Whereas it's like the drama that happened with the Punk stuff, the uncertainty of how things were going. Tony was throwing a major curveball, and it felt like things were a little rattled. And I do think that things are a little different compared to when Cody was here too. AEW has a lot of things that they need to learn, and they can. Sometimes setbacks, sometimes difficulties are the greatest things that can happen to us. And I think the Gun Club, to go back, they're a great example. The COVID is what helped them blow up. Got to show because they had to go to map. Because they had to go to Daly's place. They became Instagram, like they were incredible to follow on Instagram, and they were undeniable when you saw them in the crowd and how fun they were. And I think that, AEW, if they can tap into the same philosophy that they tapped into during that era of Daly's place, where they say like, okay, we had some legit challenges. Let's own some of those criticisms, some of those things that went wrong. And truthfully, a lot of those things went wrong that weren't necessarily their fault.
Right.
But that's life. A lot of things happen in life that are out of our control. If you're going to be successful, you need to show the ability to adapt to those things that come your way and still win, still conquer, still overcome. And I think that, like, when you see guys who are part of this roster that show an ability to have that positive attitude, SPD, and that's why, like, I felt it was important that we got back to doing this, is trying to be positive, trying to celebrate the victories, because it's very easy once a snowball starts going downhill. It's very easy to just stand there and watch it gather steam. And I think that some ways, like the critiques about AEW's product, that started to happen a little bit over the fall after what happened with Punk. They became an easy target.
Sure.
And everybody started
especially online. Yeah.
Yeah. People started focusing on the flaws of the company, and it was easy to get bummed out. But it's important to step back at any point in life when things seem to be going too good to be true, or you feel like you're having the worst, you're walking through the valley and you're having the worst chapter of your life. In those moments of those extreme highs and lows, that's when you need to be really stepping back and saying, like, okay, how do I prep for when when momentum starts to change? Because life is always a balance. So I think AEW should be looking at, like, hey, we can control our own destiny here. 2023 could be the greatest year of this company's history. The roster is as talented and as loaded full of not just talented guys, but guys who have a variety of skills, have a variety of journeys and experience that they can share. We highlighted it on this show, SPD. A guy like Jericho, a guy who is that kind of talent level, that kind of experience, a Danielson, those types of talents, all the way to, like we just talked about, the Acclaimed, the Guns, guys that are young, up and coming talents that we think, and that have potential. AEW has a wide spectrum. We didn't even talk about, guys like Swerve very much, other than like when we got into Swerve in Our Glory, but his potential as a single superstar in this company. There's so many things to look at and say, hey, AEW, if they can keep an honest perspective and look at what do we do well, what can we get better at, I think this company can take another leap in next year. But it's going to be on them to do that, Sean, because
it will.
They have a diehard fan base that will love what they give us. But there are some valid points about making us care about this product and building these stars. That's one of the things that I really think that they need to be taking advantage of. The known commodities, the aces up there, like we see FTR and the Guns, that feud, the Guns be getting this opportunity to really prove, hey man, they've shown they can hang with FTR. They deserve to have their own opportunities down the road.
100%.
These are the types of guys that we need to have more of these pairings in AEW and make them programs, not just one-off matches. Let's see programs where we're getting veterans either in teams or in a feuds with young up-and-coming talents. We need to see these Ethan Pages take the next step. We need to see, like I mentioned, the Swerves. We need to see, where does a Keith Lee stand in this roster? Can he be a guy who can carry a younger guy? Because Keith is a vet who, at this stage of his career, needs to be able to be a powerhouse who can elevate someone else. We need to start trusting the vets in this company to have these programs and be willing to put their egos aside. And this is a very important thing with some of the things we're hearing about backstage. There are guys who are in it for themselves and who are in it for the company. And that's something that you and I have always stood by AEW, is when we've had some of these conversations with the talent, there is something in them that either at the time loved and admired and cherished the bond that company had, that feeling that the company had backstage, where, like, hey, we all want each other to be successful. We're a family back here.
Yeah. Uplift others. Uplift
each other, right? Or miss that, right? There are some that you could see, wait a sec, like we want to tap back into that. I think that it's very important that AEW, obviously we have the Jericho, we have the Danielson, but who are the other leaders in this locker room who are going to establish themselves as guys who are willing to put other people above themselves? Who's going to approach this company with a servant's heart? Like, who is going to come into it and say, like, my place is established? Keith Lee is a guy I'm going to go to. Miro is an example that has been talked about on online, right? Like Miro's star is not going to go anywhere. This is a guy who is a made man. Who are you going to help elevate to be the next made man? When are you going to give that guy the next shot? Right? Like these are the types of questions that need to be asked. And Tony needs to be able to hold these guys accountable, right? Like there needs to be a recognition that, like we are going to give you – look, Jericho's the perfect example, SPD. This is a guy who has spent a lot of time trying to put other people over. Orange Cassidy in his career. Like seeing the Jericho Appreciation Society, the Inner Circle, guys who you can tell he clearly wants Sammy Guevara. He sees something in Sammy. And like Andretti, right? The one we just saw. Action Andretti. We just saw that. Right. This is a guy who continues to approach the business with a servant's heart, and because of that, gets rewarded. He gets great experiences. He became the Ocho this year, right? Like, I think that Tony is willing to say, like, Samoa Joe, are you going to be a guy who can do that? There are guys in this company who I think that really Tony needs to be able to look to and say, who's going to do the best for business, not the best for yourself, because they have people who are like that, right? Who's going to do the best thing for this business? And I think that's going to be the big factor for success next year, SPD. I think that we need to see, guys like it was a beautiful thing that Dax had his podcast recently. That's an example of a guy who recognizes like he has more to give than just wrestling in the ring or cutting a promo. He wants to be that kind of voice for the next generation. I want to see other people feel empowered to do the same thing. I'm somewhat disappointed by that the way in which the elite handled that their opportunity to kind of be that role. I haven't seen them committed to raising a younger talent since Top Flight. It feels like it's been a long time. They need to step up to the plate next year. This is a pivotal year for them. I mean, dude, the elite are not getting
put House of Black over eventually.
The elite are not getting any younger, right? And when you combine that with the injury histories, with the fact that we're starting to see other teams needing this opportunity to prove themselves to be established, and quite honestly, the controversy that happened at All Out, they need to take some of the criticism that came to them from Punk and process it in a positive way. And if they can, Punk can come back potentially. And I think that they can help build this company to be what Cody and those guys believed it could be, which is being the Ellis Island of professional wrestling, a place where we go to for freedom, for a blank slate, somebody like that new opportunity. Nice metaphor. I mean, that's Cody Rhodes' words for himself, and that's.
Oh, I don't remember that.
I believe that. I believe that to be true, and I think that I think that AEW really needs some leadership. Losing Cody, SPD, he was your breakout star pick of this last year.
I know I had good,
and he did break out in his own ways, man. Cody
you break the way.
Cody's a special guy, and I have to imagine there are certain people who are in this company who were rattled when he left. Yeah. I really do with the presence that he had, the importance that he's had on people's lives back there. We have to remember it's not just a fellow wrestler. Cody was a guy who helped make AEW possible and truthfully gave a lot of these guys a chance to be where they were. QT Marshall would not be where he is. Ricky Starks, MJF, Eddie Kingston. There are countless people, who wouldn't be in the roles that they're in if Cody didn't go to bat and try to bring these people in and go and really mentor some of these guys and give them opportunities. So there's a ripple effect. When we talked about Cody with Wardlow, even he's a guy who talked about that as somebody who's missed. He's a special guy. With all things, time heals all wounds, man. So we need to look at AEW needs to look at it and say there will never be a replacement for Cody. He's a special guy, But who are the guys that are going to step up? And because Jericho clearly has become like a leader there, but who are some guys who are going to really recognize like, okay, there's a hole to fill here, and we need to carry on this legacy of like what this company is supposed to be about.
Yeah.
This was not just to be like more of the same, right? Like this AEW is supposed to be different from the WWE, and I'm not trying to be like, oh man, they need to be the rebel anti-establishment, but like, what is their like? Go back to what makes you guys you.
Right.
Don't be WWE light. Be AEW. Be proud of who you are. What is your brand? And I think that there's a big opportunity for some talent next year. The thing that makes me excited, man, is a lot of that talent is young. If they give these guys a chance, I think that there is a lot of opportunity here for some new stars to come on the landscape. And it could be a very exciting year if they pull the trigger the right way and they pull the strings the right way. I think it could be a really exciting year that could – this time next year we could be having a lot of fun talking about the product.
Everything but Samoa Joe is a AEW kind of OG homegrown, which is pretty cool. The confidence in that.
That's true too. That's a great point.
New year, new set, new Dynamite download. It's a lot of looking forward to. I hope everyone, thank you for tuning in. This has been a lot of fun, Crayfish.
Yeah, absolutely, man.
Tomorrow is New Year's Eve, and then we're kicking off a new 2023. It's crazy. It's so weird to say 2023.
I know, man. Time goes by so quick, brother.
It's going to be a lot of fun, man. I can't wait. The next two Dynamites, they've announced, the matches they've announced so far are really like, pay-per-view worthy stuff. So they're really going to be kicking things off with a bang. And
like you said, even Rampage tonight, we're missing. I'm going to jump in and catch. There's some great matches on this.
I can't wait to see the Swerve Wheeler.
Yeah, me too, bud. That's going to be a great one.
7-8 months ago, I would have been like, if that was matches announced, I'd be like, okay, whatever. But now I'm like, these guys have developed into such like studs.
Great point, man. Great point. I agree, man. This is a great show, man. Nice talking with you, dude. We'll be in touch, guys. We're gonna make sure that we keep you up to date on AEW in 2023.
Miss y'all. Love y'all. Thank you.